A birthday gift reignites an old friendship, blurring the lines between reality and desire. In a digital world where anything feels possible, two men find themselves trapped in a secret they can't escape. Danny walks into a bar and spots Theo. He walks up to her and talks to her the way a guy usually does when trying to flirt. He asks if she's alone, and she says she is. Then he compliments her, asking why someone so pretty is alone at a bar. Theo doesn't fall for it and tells him that his line is cheesy. Danny doesn't argue. He admits it and says he'll make up for it by buying her a drink. Theo accepts. He orders a vodka sidecar for her. She's surprised and asks how he knew her favorite drink. He's about to explain when they're interrupted by a couple, Carl and Daisy, who approach and greet them. Carl introduces Daisy, but the whole thing turns out to be just a game. Danny and Theo are already a couple. They were just pretending to be strangers for fun. They dance together on the dance floor, fully enjoying their playful moment. Afterward, they head home and get intimate. The next morning, Danny wakes up and grabs some leftover pizza. As he eats, he hears Carl playing a video game in the living room. Carl invites Danny to join. At first, Danny says he has work the next day and hesitates, but Carl convinces him and they start playing. They get into the game so much that they end up being loud. Their noise wakes Daisy, who comes out and tells them to keep it down. 11 years later, Danny is in the backyard grilling meat when a woman named Gemma walks up to him. She smiles and wishes him a happy birthday. Curious, she asks his age. He tells her he just turned 38. Gemma introduces a man named Simon, who is with her. Meanwhile, inside the house, Theo is busy preparing things in the kitchen. She hears the doorbell and goes to answer it. It's Carl. She's surprised to see him and says it's been a long time. They hug. Theo asks if Daisy is with him, but Carl tells her they're no longer together. She invites him in and lets him know that Danny is out back. Outside, Danny is still working on the grill when Carl comes up and calls his name. Danny turns around, happy to see him. Carl hands him a present, Striking Viper's X, a video game. Danny says no at first, but Carl insists, saying the game is amazing. Danny finally takes it and says it brings back memories. He reads the back of the box and realizes the game requires virtual reality. Danny mentions that he doesn't own a VR headset. Carl grins and says not to worry, he bought one for him. While they're catching up, Carl looks toward the backyard and asks if one of the kids is Danny's. Danny says no, that the boy is Maxwell, a friend of their son Tyler from school. As they talk, Carl jokes about Theo looking great and teases Danny about walking like an old man. Danny laughs and blames his knee, but says it's all right. He's married now, unlike Carl, who he jokes is still on the market. Carl tells Danny that after the birthday party, he's meeting up with someone named Mariella. He shows Danny a picture of her. While they're looking at her photo, Theo walks by and asks what they're talking about. She sees the picture and tells Carl that he's lucky. Later that night, Theo tells Danny he should have mentioned that Carl and Daisy had already broken up. Danny says he didn't ask Carl for the details. Theo suggests they invite Carl over for dinner so they can all catch up properly. Danny brushes it off, saying life is too busy with work and family. Theo insists it would be nice. Later, in bed, Theo tells Danny she's fertile, hinting at wanting intimacy. But Danny says he can't because he ate too much. Theo quietly accepts it and goes to sleep. Meanwhile, Carl is having dinner with Mariella in an upscale hotel. He tries to make her laugh with a Dennis Rodman joke, but Mariella doesn't get the reference, so she looks him up online. Eventually, they end up in bed, but Carl seems distant and unsatisfied with the experience. Back at home, Danny passes the time playing Tetris. Out of the blue, Carl messages him to play Striking Viper's X. Danny is hesitant again, but Carl talks him into it. He guides Danny on how to set up the game system. Once it's ready, they both choose their characters. Carl picks Roxette, and Danny chooses Lance. Carl tells Danny to get ready. They press the sync button together, and suddenly, they're inside the game, fully immersed, seeing themselves as their chosen characters. They start fighting inside the game, with Roxette attacking Lance aggressively. Carl, as Roxette, reminds Danny that the game resets each round and there's no real harm. They go back and forth in combat. Then, as Roxette pins Lance down, she starts to kiss him. They kiss passionately, but Danny, as Lance, eventually stops and asks how to exit. Carl logs out first, and Danny follows. Both are shaken by what just happened in the game. The next morning, Danny is still thinking about the incident. He's distracted all day and can't concentrate at work. One evening, Theo has to leave and tells their son Tyler to watch over his dad. That same night, Carl sits at home playing retro games, but he quickly gets bored. Danny, again playing Tetris, gets another invite from Carl to play Striking Vipers X. Danny says he can't stay long and jokes that he was drunk the last time they played. They agree to play seriously this time. They go back into the game, picking the same characters, Roxette and Lance. They start facing off, but instead of fighting, they kiss again. This time, they go even further and get intimate in the game, blurring the lines between reality and virtual fantasy. After getting dressed in the game, Lance sits beside Roxette. She jokes that they're now gay, but quickly takes it back and tells Danny she was only teasing. Suddenly, Lance feels something kicking him. It's Tyler, waking his dad up because he's thirsty. Later that night, Danny lies in bed and sends Carl a message to apologize for leaving the game so suddenly. As soon as Theo gets home, he hides his phone. Despite what happened, Carl and Danny keep going back into the game. They play over and over, always choosing Roxette and Lance. They enjoy it, and it slowly begins affecting Danny's real-life relationship. Theo notices the distance between them and starts becoming suspicious. Inside the game again, Roxette lies on Lance's lap. She tells him she can tell when something's on his mind. Lance asks her what it feels like being in a woman's body. Roxette tells him it feels crazy and satisfying. They kiss again, unable to stop themselves from repeating what they've done before. The next day, Danny watches Theo and Tyler playing on a swing. He looks thoughtful, clearly distracted. Later, Theo texts him saying she got a babysitter for the evening. Danny, confused, asks her why. She reminds him it's their wedding anniversary and sarcastically thanks him for forgetting. Danny quickly messages Carl that he won't be able to play tonight. Meanwhile, Theo waits at a bar for Danny. A man approaches her and offers to buy her a drink, but she turns him down and shows him her wedding ring. Danny arrives shortly after, and they eat dinner together. After dinner, Theo talks to him seriously. She says the problem with Danny is that even when he's there, he's not really present. She asks what's been going on with him. Danny brushes it off, saying nothing's wrong. Theo points out they haven't had sex for weeks. Danny gives a weak excuse, but Theo doesn't let it go. She asks if he's seeing someone else. Danny says no. She tells him she knows marriage can feel dull, but she's still committed to their family. Danny insists again that nothing is going on. Meanwhile, Carl is in bed with Mariella, but he stops midway and says he can't continue. Mariella shrugs and tells him to take care of himself. Carl gets online and sends Danny an invite to play Striking Vipers X. But Danny has hidden the game in a cabinet where he won't be tempted. When Carl doesn't see him log in, he texts Danny, asking where he is. Danny calls Carl and tells him he can't do it anymore. He says it's not fair to Theo. Carl argues that it isn't cheating because it's not real, but Danny stands firm. He says goodbye and ends the call, making it clear he's done with the game. 7 months later, Theo is pregnant again. She watches Danny and Tyler playing in the backyard, a quiet scene of domestic life. It's Danny's birthday, and Theo gives him chocolate and shows him the food she prepared. Danny says she cooked a lot, and Theo casually mentions she invited Carl over for dinner. Danny doesn't say much through the entire meal. When Theo leaves to get dessert, Carl and Danny are left alone at the table. Danny asks Carl what he's been doing lately. Carl admits he's tried everything to replace what they had in the game, but nothing worked. Carl jokes that Roxette will be waiting at midnight, tempting Danny. That night, Danny lies in bed unable to sleep. The thought of the game pulls him in again. Eventually, he gives in and meets Carl online. As Roxette, Carl tells Lance she loves him. Lance pulls away. He questions where all of this is going. Roxette says it doesn't have to end. That's when Danny decides they need to settle things in real life. He tells Carl to meet him behind the club in 30 minutes. This time, he doesn't want to fight, just kiss. He believes that if they kiss in real life and feel nothing, it'll prove the connection was just virtual. They meet in the rain and kiss. Nothing. No spark, no feeling. Carl says it's different in the game, but Danny snaps, saying it's not real. They argue and the tension turns physical. They fight until the police break it up. Theo later bails Danny out. She asks what happened, clearly fed up. Danny stays silent at first, about to confess, but the story jumps ahead a year. It's Danny's birthday again. They now have a second child. Theo gives Danny a familiar gift, the gaming device. But this time, there's a deal. He can use it, but she gets it back the next morning. Their marriage has changed. They're no longer really together, just staying together for the kids. Danny and Carl keep playing Striking Viper's X once a year. And every year, Theo removes her wedding ring and spends the night with other men. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. See you in the next one.